1st, 1990. I'm David Carter, Speaker of the House and MLA for Calgary-Egmont. Today, after question period, the House will be dealing with written questions and motions for return, and then if there is time, they will move on to a motion as sponsored by the member for Pincher Creek Crow's Nest with regard to the establishment of a laser fusion laboratory in Alberta. At 4:30, the House will then be debating Bill 214, the Non-Smokers Health Act, as moved by the member for Calgary-Buffalo. This evening, the House will reconvene at 8 o'clock and probably run on until almost midnight, beginning with bills at Committee of the Whole stage. There are 16 bills still at that stage. And then if there's time, moving back to second readings, dealing with Bill 37, Alberta Government Telephones Reorganization Act. Let us pray. As Canadians and as Albertans, we give thanks for the precious gifts of freedom and peace which we enjoy. As members of this Legislative Assembly, we rededicate ourselves to the valued traditions of parliamentary democracy as a means of serving our province and our country. Amen.
Mr. Speaker, I seek unanimous consent of the Assembly to engage in an unusual procedure.
Having heard the request, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Let the record show unanimous. For the Attorney General, please come forward, and the member for Edmonton Strathcona, please.
To the Honourable Member for Strathcona. Mr. Speaker, everyone knows that the Honourable Member is battling an insidious disease. I know the Honourable Member has high spirits, notwithstanding his struggle. And I'm having a little struggle. It's my strong belief that spirit is a great elixir against any disease, and I hope today, with our consent and our recognition of the contributions to the House, the constituency, to the public, and to the profession, that we can raise your spirits, sir. Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member has been my portfolio critic since 1986, since our election, and although I can personally attest for the time elapsed, I'm sure it certainly applies for all time, that there's no better parliamentarian, no better gentleman, and no one with more respect. Although we're opposites in our political philosophies, we do share the same concerns for our fellow mankind, for this Assembly, and for our province. The Honourable Member for Strathcona has served his political party valiantly since the inception in '82, and he's run as a candidate in '67, 71, 75, 82, 86, and 89, being successful in 86 and 89. He served his profession since his articles in the United Kingdom in 53 and since 55 in Alberta. He has served in the Attorney General Department from 56 to 59, and since that time has been in private practice a formidable barrister. Mr. Speaker, a Queen's Counsel designation has a history since the 16th century, when the King's Attorney and the King's Solicitor could not handle business, and private solicitors or barristers were hired to cope with this business, and they were called Queen's Learned Counsel, and they were seated, if I may quote, on the outside of the wool sacks next to the earls. The first modern QC was to Sir Francis Bacon in 1604, and in Canada the first QCs were appointed in 1841. Mr. Speaker, the February 5th, 1859 edition of the Upper Canada Law Journal speaks of the necessary qualities of a Queen's Counsel. If I may quote, "We trust that the day will never come when a member of the profession, to attain this or any other distinction, must either be a political partisan or a cringing parasite. If the day should come, then that which is now an honor will be a disgrace, worthy of the acceptance only of bad men." I couldn't say with purity that we necessarily give all of our QCs based on that statement. The 1863 edition of the same journal again spoke of the qualities of individuals worthy of appointment as Queen's Counsel. And I'll quote, "In no profession is true merit better appreciated by the public than that of the law. A deserving man, in spite of adverse circumstances, by dint of energy, may raise himself as high as he pleases. If he has the true ring, he is sure to be appreciated. The converse is also true. A man unfit for the profession of law cannot, in general, be forced into greatness, or if so forced, soon falls to the level which nature designed for him. All the titles in the world will not make him a great lawyer if nature has set upon him the stamp of mediocrity." Further, the qualifications of a successful barrister are many. He must be quick, courageous, decided, intelligent, well-informed. He must have good common sense, versatility, and ability to please. He must be able to express his ideas with clearness and appropriateness. He must be ready for any and every emergency, equal to any and every occasion. A final quotation of interest, Mr. Speaker, is from the July 17, 1989 Hansard. The Honourable Member for Edmonton Strathcona asked if the Attorney General would consider recommending to the Legislature a change of the designation from Queen's Counsel to something rather more current and self-explanatory, such as successful older barrister. A second honourable member noted, there was no name beside this, that this would result in the appellation of Gordon Wright SOB. Mr. Speaker, it's my privilege and certainly my pleasure to recognize the honourable member's considerable merit in receiving the designation Queen's Counsel. Gordon, may your spirit soar. May the elixir work, and may we see you challenging the government in the fall session. I'd like now to present you with your certificate.
Member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Well, it's the first time you've done so without my making some overt motion to be recognized, Mr. Speaker, and I almost wonder whether I'm dreaming, to be truthful. This is such a surprise. acknowledge, however, the honor that a Queen's Counsel confers. I acknowledge also that I have been a little sarcastic in the past as to whether the criteria have always been lived up to. I don't wish to be churlish and expand that at all, and I will leave others to judge whether in this case the due merit is there, whether under the appellation of successful older barrister, or indeed what the initials themselves might stand for. And so if I'd had some time to search my brain, such as it is, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure I could be more eloquent and delay the business of the House still further. But can I say that I appreciate most of all the goodwill behind this presentation.
Introduction of visitors.
The Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, it's my special privilege on a very special occasion to introduce in your gallery, the Speaker's gallery, Gordon Wright's family, friends, and colleagues, Mr. Speaker. I'd like them to stand as I call them out, and I'm sure that we'll get a warm welcome. His wife, first of all, his wife, Mary Wright. Their children, Jill Wright, Christopher Wright, Sarah Wright, Byron Collins, Catherine Collins. Also, Mr. Speaker, Gordon's law partner, Francis McMenemy, an assistant for the last 13 years in his law office, Jermaine St. Paul, his legislative assistant, Diana Martin, and colleagues and longtime friends, John Wharton and Jean McBean. I'd ask the Assembly to give them a very warm welcome.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to introduce to you, members of the Assembly, a distinguished delegation from the Korean Women's Association. We're seated in the members' gallery. The chairman of the Korean Women's Association, Kam Soon Park, accompanied by an additional 7 members, and by Dr. David Bai from the University of Alberta, a distinguished member of the Canadian and Alberta Korean Association. They are here and have met with the Honourable Minister responsible for women's affairs in our government. They're here to observe the conduct of our Assembly today, and I would ask that they rise. They have risen now and receive a warm welcome of members of the Assembly.
Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions.
Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to give notice pursuant to Standing Order 21. Firstly, that when the adjourned debate on the motion for second reading of Bill 31 and of Bill 37 is called for resumption, I intend to move in each instance, pursuant to Standing Order 21-1A, that the debate shall not be further adjourned. Secondly, that when Bill 31 and Bill 37 are before a committee of the whole, I intend to move pursuant to Standing Order 21-1B that all of the resolutions, clauses, sections, and titles relating to those two bills shall be the first business of the committee and shall not be further postponed. And thirdly, that when Bill 31 and Bill 37 are called for resumption of a previously adjourned debate on the motion for third reading, I intend to move in each instance pursuant to Standing Order 21-1A that the debate shall not be further adjourned.
Leader of the Opposition.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, under Standing Order 40, I'd like to bring forward this motion. Be it resolved that this Assembly condemns the Conservative Government of Alberta for its 11th hour introduction of the bill to sell off Alberta government telephones after having conducted a general election only 15 months ago without revealing its intention to do so, and also for its failure to allow due public input on the matter, and finally for its blatant contempt for the parliamentary democratic process by giving notice of closure on the enabling bill.
Introduction of bills.
For Calgary Buffalo.
Speaker, if I can find my bill here, I'll introduce it. Oh, here it is. I request leave to introduce the bill that I just found miraculously, Bill 226, the Open Taxation Act, the purpose of which is to require the amount of sales tax to be set out openly and separately on any invoice for the sale of goods and services.
The honourable member for Calgary Buffalo has moved first reading to Bill 226, Open Taxation Act. Those members in favor of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 226, Open Taxation Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Schumer, is now read a first time. Tabling returns and reports.
Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications.
Mr. Speaker, it is my pleasure to table the 1988-89 annual report for the Department of Technology, Research and Telecommunications.
Member for Edmonton Mill Woods.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to file with the Assembly copies of Resolution 627, passed this morning by the Annual Convention of the Alberta Federation of Labour, calling for the Occupational Health and Safety Minister's resignation, as well as copies of Resolution 627, calling for the Occupational Health and Safety Minister's defeat in the next general election.
Calgary Glenmore.
Mr. Speaker, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to table principles and policies governing professional legislation in Alberta. I'd like to take a moment to thank all the professions who've given a great deal of their time and input into these policies.
The member for Edmonton Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the chair of the Edmonton Caucus and as we debate the people's business now into the summer, I thought it would be helpful to table for all honourable members information about the calendar of events planned for our capital city, our festival city, Mr. Speaker. Not only the 7 major festivals which begin tomorrow, but a number of other events such as the World Baseball Games, Mr. Speaker, which I'm sure you'd be interested in.
Thank you, honourable member. Tabling is a tabling. Thank you. Order, please. Order. And the Speaker's Golf Cup is in September too. So, Minister of the Environment on a tabling? No.
Mr. Speaker, I would rather do this through a ministerial statement. Thank you.
Additional? Thank you.
Introduction of special guests.
Member for Drumheller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure this afternoon to introduce to you and through you to all members of the Assembly 4 gentlemen from the Strathmore District, and led by who are here to discuss recreational matters with the government, and they're led by the Mayor of Strathmore, Mr. Keith Schneider, And they include Jim Kay, Theo Owl, and Eugene Helfrich. I'd ask them to rise in the members' gallery and receive the traditional welcome of the Assembly.
Leader of the Opposition, followed by Minister of Public Works, Supply and Service.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my privilege today to introduce a constituent, Charles Boulay, but visiting with him is a visitor from Norway, Lena Dwight. She's here in our beautiful province for a month, and I understand we'll be visiting Jasper and then going on to the Calgary Stampede. I'd like them to rise in the public gallery to receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services, followed by the Minister of Labor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Located in the public gallery today are 15 young grade 10 students from Neerlandia School. They're accompanied by a teacher, Mr. Bert Van Nienhuis, and a bus driver, Mrs. Irene Baker. Mr. Speaker, Neerlandia is located about 75 miles north of here. It's part of a prime agricultural country, and I'd ask all members of the Assembly to extend a warm greeting to my young constituents from Neerlandia.
Minister of Labor.
Mr. Speaker, it is my pleasure on behalf of my colleague, the Honourable Roy Brassard, who is attending a ministerial conference out of province, to introduce to you and through you to the members of the Assembly 27 members from the Cremona Gold and Silver Club. Very pleased to have them with us today in the members gallery, and with them is their tour director, Audrey Rigsby. I would ask all of the members of the club please to rise and receive the warm welcome that is traditional of our Assembly.
Edmonton Belmont, followed by Edmonton Gold Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of my colleague, the member from Stony Plain, I'm pleased to introduce two people from Atlanta, Georgia, who are on their first visit to Edmonton. I believe that by the shock of their face, Mr. Speaker, they're now seated in the public gallery. Mr. and Mrs. Robert Wickman, if they would rise and receive the traditional welcome of the Assembly.
Edmonton Gold Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I, too, am pleased to introduce to you and other members of the Assembly guests from overseas. We're joined today by Elsa and Gandalf Zeller from the Republic of Germany and their Alberta hosts, Helga Tuch and Ralph Heckel. They're in the public gallery. I'd ask them to rise and be welcomed by the Assembly.
Edmonton White Mud and Economic Development and Trade.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to introduce to you and through you to members of the House 4 special guests that are involved with developing the Art Space Co-op and integrated housing complex to allow more persons with disabilities to be independent, productive members of our society. The 4 individuals, Mr. Speaker, are Bill Miller, the President, and he's accompanied by 3 members, Rhonda Galper, Louise Miller, and Ike Brilt. If the 4 of them would identify themselves, and I would ask members of this House to give the traditional warm welcome. They're seated in the public gallery.
Economic Development and Trade.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure, sir, to introduce to you and through you to members of the Legislative Assembly a colleague from my former life. I served with this gentleman when he was a member of Parliament in the House of Commons. He is seated in the members gallery, and he also has some visitors with him, visitors to our province of Alberta. I would ask Mr. Bill Lessick and his visitors to rise and receive the warm welcome of this Legislative Assembly.
Redwater Andrew.
On behalf of my colleague, the Honourable Member for Don Vegan, it's a pleasure for me to introduce to you and through you to the Assembly 20 fine, energetic students from the Rycroft School. They're accompanied by teachers Mr. Rion, Mrs. Pawa, Mrs. Sikulik, and parents Mrs. Melkovich, Mrs. Burek, and Mrs. Barbarich. And they're seated in the members gallery, and I'd ask they rise and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Ministerial statements.
Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, it is with a great deal of pride that I rise today on behalf of Premier Getty and the government of the province of Alberta to present the draft Alberta Environmental Protection and Enhancement Act. This discussion paper and draft legislation is the culmination of over a year of hard work and meets the commitment this government made to Albertans to introduce sweeping new environmental legislation for this province. As we said in January when announcing that this new legislation would be coming forward, environmental concerns and values have changed remarkably since Alberta Environment was formed in 1971. There are greater pressures on the environment, more complex technologies, higher public awareness of environmental degradation, and the need for governments to take a more active role in environmental protection. All of these factors make this proposed legislation vitally important. We introduced this discussion paper in draft form only because we have not yet completed the process of listening to Albertans. Thousands of Albertans responded in writing to the vision document released in January, and I tabled their responses in the Assembly and the House on Tuesday. But we also want to hear from Albertans in person. To that end, Mr. Speaker, we are announcing today that an environmental legislation review panel will be formed to travel across Alberta this fall and to hear from Albertans as to the specific principles contained in this draft legislation. Based on what we hear, this draft will be rewritten over the course of the winter and reintroduced for passage in the spring of 1991. This is in keeping with the 15-month timetable that was outlined in January. Mr. Speaker, this environmental legislation is going to change the way Albertans live and work and respond to the environmental challenge. If I might briefly outline the major new and enhanced provisions, they include establishment of a legislative environmental impact assessment process incorporating the recommendations of the Environmental Impact Assessment Task Force report, increased public participation in all aspects of environmental protection and enhancement, statutory requirements for waste reduction and recycling, dramatically increased penalty provisions, including fines of up to $1 million and 6 months in jail for violators. The ability to ensure that corporations do not profit from environmental violations by imposing additional fines offsetting any monetary benefits accrued from an offense. 25-year owner-operator liability for site cleanup and reclamation costs. The expansion and redirecting of the former Natural Resources Coordinating Council into the Sustainable Development Coordinating Council, and liability of corporate officers and directors for environmental offenses. Mr. Speaker, I must acknowledge two groups of people without whose efforts I would not be making this announcement. Firstly, I must thank all of my colleagues in government for their comments and advice throughout this drafting process. And this has been a new and interesting experience for me, Mr. Speaker, as a new minister, and now I know how camels were designed. They were originally horses, designed by committee, but it's been an interesting and a very rewarding exercise. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, I must acknowledge with heartfelt thanks the men and women of Alberta Environment, whom I regard as this province's true environmentalists, and they are in the members' gallery today. Mr. Speaker, I will conclude by simply saying that this draft legislation is tough, but it's fair. Let there be no illusions on anyone's part. This government is committed to environmental protection and will strictly enforce our legislative authority to meet that goal. Nothing is more indicative of the health and progress of a people than the style of their laws, the manner in which they are observed, and the manner in which they are enforced. By those yardsticks, the people of this province can be assured that Alberta's air, land, and water will be protected for future generations. Mr. Speaker, in response to questions yesterday in the House as to how we intend to respond to the comments of over 4,000 Albertans, this, Mr. Speaker, is our answer. I would now ask that this package be distributed to all members of the Assembly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
opposition.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, replying to the ministerial statement, it's nice that we're going to have another environmental review panel, Mr. Speaker, and if I may say so, just glancing at the ministerial statement, there's not a lot that I disagree with, Mr. Speaker, but I think some things have to be said to this minister and this government, Mr. Speaker. I notice that it will be absolutely impossible to have any new environmental laws until the spring of 1991, perhaps a year from now, Mr. Speaker. And I would also point out to this government that is convenient because all their major pulp projects will be on board by then, Mr. Speaker. It's sort of like closing the barn door after the horses have gone out, Mr. Speaker. And I would say to this minister, he talks in here about establishment of a legislative environmental impact assessment process incorporating the recommendations of EIA Task Force report. He talks about increased public participation. Well, Mr. Speaker, as we said yesterday, why not then have some public hearings in Diashawa, Weldwood, Procter & Gamble? They're going to be polluting right away, I say to this government. Why not a guarantee on the ALPAC project, Mr. Speaker, if we believe what we're saying in this ministerial announcement? Mr. Speaker, the other thing, he says dramatically increased penalty provisions, including fines of up to $1 million and 6 months in jail. Well, we've had all sorts of laws on the book before that weren't enforced, Mr. Speaker. You can put maximum figures if you're not going to enforcement, and that's been the record of this government, Mr. Speaker. Now, as I say, Mr. Speaker, I agree with many of the provisions. I especially agree with that statement where the minister says, nothing is more indicative of the health and progress of a people that the style of their laws, the manner in which they are observed, and the manner in which they are enforced. Up to this present time, Mr. Speaker, this government has been an absolute failure in that, failure in the environmental area. Now, Mr. Speaker, as I say, I'm not going to disagree with the ministerial statement as such, but we know where they're coming from. The problem is, will this be legislation? Will the anti-environmentalists in cabinet get to it before the minister does, Mr. Speaker? Yeah. Will it, and as I pointed out, it'll be too late for many of the projects that are already on board that we should be dealing with. And I say in the past, enforcement by this government has been very poor, Mr. Speaker, and I don't see anything that will change just because we've written it down here in a ministerial statement. The test of this government is not what they promise, Mr. Speaker, it's what they do. We've heard many promises before, Mr. Speaker. The proof is not in their words, but in their actions, Mr. Speaker. Here. And if they really believed in it, they would go back and look at some of their environmental projects right now instead of waiting for a year, Mr. Speaker. Right That's on. The reality of it.
Right.
Oral question period.
Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, to the Deputy Premier, Mr. Speaker, the House Leader, Mr. Speaker, as the Minister is well aware, New Democrats are totally opposed to this government's intention to shut down debate on one of the most important pieces of legislation this province has seen for years. Not only one of them, now we find out two of them, Mr. Speaker.
Agreed.
Now, but I wanted to concentrate on Alberta government telephones. This government's decision to sell off Alberta government telephones, and in the process, I say sell out Alberta families, especially rural families, surely it deserves full and comprehensive debate, Mr. Speaker, because it was not even talked about in the election. In some cases, we're told the opposite, that it was going to be sacred in this province, Mr. Speaker. Now, the official opposition is committed to carrying out its responsibilities and doing the job for which we are paid to do. Mr. Speaker, the other offensive part of this government strategy is that they've waited till the tail end, what they perceive at least as the tail end of the legislature, to bring this through, Mr. Speaker, when people were concentrating on Meech Lake and weren't even aware that this is going on, Mr. Speaker. And I say to you that's offensive because this is an important bill. My question to the Deputy Premier, can the Deputy Premier really explain to the people of Alberta why this government is so absolutely desperate to ram this legislation through the legislature without full and vigorous debate?
Tomorrow, when the bill is called, it will be the 9th day that the matter has been before the Assembly. Order.
Mr. Speaker, this is a bill that was not even talked about in the election. It has major implications, and with some of those days we debated for half an hour, Is this your idea of democracy? That's what I say to this government, Mr. Speaker. Now, I remind this... Yeah, I would remind...
Order in the House so that the leader can at least get his question out. On both sides.
Mr. Speaker, the last time that this government, we remember it well, used this draconian and undemocratic tactic, we ended up with one of the worst piece of labor laws in Canada, the worst in Canada, Mr. Speaker, and we're still paying the price for that, Mr. Speaker. And I want to ask the Deputy Premier is this. How does the Deputy Premier justify the suspension of parliamentary democracy on such an important piece of legislation? Even he said it was only 9 days.
Hear, hear.
9 days. The standing orders of this assembly were arrived at in a democratic way, and oh my. Well, we can expect this kind of nonsense from the member for Vegreville, who is supplementing his leader's efforts in this regard, and that's not surprising. But the fact of the matter is that it will be given further debate in 3 additional stages, and I expect that we'll hear a great deal more about it. And furthermore, the opposition said that they were going to use every tactic at their control to frustrate the will of the majority of this assembly. So we're using the rules that are provided for by this assembly and have been part of the democratic rules of this assembly since I've been a member of this House.
Final Leader of the Opposition.
This government has a majority government. This was a bill that had no public hearings at all, Mr. Speaker. I don't know what the hurry is. Maybe it's the golf courses, maybe the backbenchers' seats are warm, Mr. Speaker, but there's no legitimate excuse to bring in closure debate in this legislature, and this minister knows it full well, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear.
And it's a company that's been there since 1906, and in 9 days you want to just sell it off without proper debate, Mr. Speaker, and that is a shame. And I ask the Deputy Premier, will the Deputy Premier, who knows better, who I thought believed in democracy, at least he talks about it, withdraw this notice to cut off debate and allow the members of the Assembly to do the job they're paid to do and expected to do, Mr. Speaker. We're expected to debate these bills.
The honourable member is quite correct that this is a democracy. The people democratically elected a majority government. The matter has been brought before the Assembly through the rules which have been established in this Assembly, and the short answer to the honourable Leader of the Opposition's question is no.
Question, Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The tyranny of the majority. Yep. The Albertans will remember this. This is the way this government operates, Mr. Speaker. My second question is to the Minister of the Environment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, apparently the Minister of the Environment finally got the message that Albertans were fed up with laughable laws and pathetic penalties when it comes to prosecuting polluters, Mr. Speaker. There's no question, though, that the minister and this government will be taking vows every chance they get to talk about these tough new fines and sending polluters to jail, Mr. Speaker. But of course, Albertans have heard a lot of talk and rhetoric and self-congratulations from this government before on environmental matters. You just have to go back earlier this year, Mr. Speaker, when the Premier said all those great things about the LPAC Review Board and then turned around and ordered a review of the review to undermine it, Mr. Speaker.
Where are the results
But my
of that?
question to the Minister of the Environment is this, Mr. Speaker, is this. What assurances can you give Albertans that these new maximum fines will actually be demanded of polluters in this province and you will not just sit on the regulations and that they will never be used?
Well, first of all, it leaves that to the judgment of the courts, but at least gives the courts the flexibility to impose fines of up to $1 million. I think that the environmental realities of today are that enforcement is required, it's mandatory, people expect it. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition alluded to the Thanks to Albertans document yesterday, where there was a strong expression that people want enforcement. What we're going to do, and I welcome his comment, that's precisely the kind of thing that we want. And I would invite not only the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, but other members of the NDP party and members of the Liberal Party and all Albertans to phone the right number. Now, I don't have it right now, but I think it's a 1-800 number. I'll have it tomorrow, and I'll repeat it as many times as I possibly can, because this is precisely the kind of thing that we want to have, and I thank you for your comment. This is what we want.
Agreed. You're going to be thanking me a lot, because you're going to get a lot of comments in the future, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, I might point out to this minister that we advocate the things that were in this, that he's still planning. Back in the election, Mr. Speaker, if there had been our government, a lot of these things would have been in order right now, Mr. Speaker.
That's right.
Now, Mr. Speaker, but to get back to these fines that the minister is talking about, that we'll still study for a while, mind you, and it won't come in for another year, Mr. Speaker, let's look at the government's political will when it comes to prosecution in other areas. The highest fine ever paid by an employer under occupational health and safety laws for the death of a worker was $10,000. That's what a worker was worth, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
And I'd point out the maximum that they could have been fined is $150,000. So my point is upper limits don't mean much to this government,
right.
Mr. Speaker.
Lower limits.
My question then is to the minister, a serious one, because he wants to hear about, why would or should Albertans believe this government will be any more serious about making polluters pay or go to jail for their crimes or actions than it is for prosecuting and punishing employers who are responsible for workers killed on the job?
Oh. Well, the Honorable Minister of Occupational Health and Safety is not here, and he can't supplement my my answer. But to respond to the lead-in to the question, I'm amazed. I'm amazed. I didn't know the socialists were magicians as well, that they could just snap their fingers and pull out of the air legislation that would accomplish all these things that we're trying to do through public consultation. I'm amazed. I didn't know you were magicians. To answer the question as it relates to the environment, Mr. Speaker, this is a document for public discussion. This is a document to get the views of Albertans, not only to bring together 9 existing environmental laws, but to enhance those laws, to strengthen those laws, Mr. Speaker, and to set an environmental agenda to take us through this decade and into the next century.
Mr. Speaker, if I may, to the minister, no, we're not magicians, just responsible politicians. He may want to learn about that, Mr. Speaker. And I would remind this minister that this is just a piece of paper at this particular time, and I pointed out most of the things that are occurring will have occurred by 1991. I think that's irresponsible to the minister. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to ask this minister, going on the assumption, Mr. Speaker, that he does believe in this draft legislation, he knows Albertans want changes, Mr. Speaker, my question is this to the minister. Can the minister assure us that the rest of the government, the anti-environmentalists in cabinet, are committed to getting tough with polluters, and they won't be overruled by the energy minister or the premier when he's proceeding with this legislation? Can he give us those absolute guarantees that he has the support of the cabinet?
Just say yes.
What's irresponsible? What's irresponsible, Mr. Speaker, is the attitude of the opposition, who say we should have public hearings on this, and we should have public hearings on this, and we should have public consultation on this and that and every other thing. And finally, we take something out, probably the most significant piece of environmental legislation out for public consultation, and they criticize it. Now, I know we can't use the word hypocrisy in the House, Mr. Speaker, so I won't use it. But I can't find another word for it. That's all I can say.
Edmonton Whitemud on behalf of the Liberals.
Speaker, the action plan of the Premier's Council on the Status of Persons with Disabilities, the Brassard Report, and the Rainbow Report all recognize the need for support services to enable persons with disabilities to be independent, productive members of our society. In view of the decision with the Porter family, I believe that the minister agrees. Yet, Mr. Speaker, The future residents of the Artspace Co-op have not received approval for a support services program similar to the one already in place in the Abbey Road Co-op. Mr. Speaker, their letter of intent was submitted last September and followed up by a proposal more than 3 months ago. My question is to the Minister of Health. Is the Minister prepared to tell us today what decision has been taken in regard to the proposal submitted by the Artspace Co-op for support services systems?
Mr. Speaker, I'm quite aware of the proposal for the Artspace Housing Cooperative, especially with respect to the members in the gallery that were introduced by the Honourable Member today. Certainly the proposal was made some time ago to the Department of Health for a cooperative housing project. There are currently not allocated resources within the 1990-91 budget for this project. However, within the context of the review of the Premier's Council on the Status of Persons with Disabilities, it would be my hope that I might be able to get the context of a response to the Honourable Members within the shortest possible time.
Mr. Speaker, it sounds to me as if the Minister is saying that the decision is not a favorable one. At least that's the interpretation I have, and that facility is due to be open October the 1st, and there's planning that's required. In view, Mr. Speaker, in view of the apparent recognized need to enable persons with disabilities to be part of the community, what is the Minister's rationale, her reason for not being prepared to announce a positive decision, find those funds that are required, and placing this as a priority item?
Mr. Speaker, as yet we haven't made a full comprehensive response to the report of the Premier's Council on the status of persons with disabilities. Certainly the potential of this program being part of a response to that Council's report is one that is part of the overall review, and one which I will be pursuing with my colleague, the Honourable Minister of Education, in his primary capacity for leading the discussion within government.
Mr. Speaker, may I remind the Minister that the facility is well under construction. Without the support services, the residents cannot move in. What will they do? Mr. Speaker, to the Minister, is the Minister prepared to give this House an undertaking that she will meet with representatives of the Artspace Co-op in the next few days to resolve this matter in a positive fashion?
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Member may not be aware that within health there are many, many worthy projects which come and are requested to be supported. It's not a matter of me simply saying, here's another one that I think is a very great idea. It's a matter of finding the resources within health and ensuring that we are using those resources in the appropriate way. If the expectation is that I could give a response to this group in the next several days, and that would be the purpose of the meeting, I'm afraid I would have to decline the offer, because it's not my view that the government response with respect to the Persons with Disabilities Council report will be ready in that time frame. I'm happy to meet with the group, but within the overall framework of the discussion on this particular project being part of our overall response on the Premier's Council. It's a difficult decision, and I guess that's the nature of decisions in health. We have to make those kinds of decisions, and I'll accept the responsibility for it. When people make decisions to proceed on building projects without a confirmation with respect to the health support that will flow, we all have to live with those kinds of consequences.
Lloyd-Minster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. ADAC is and has been a leader in this province, in Canada, and internationally in the prevention and education of substance abuse. And my question today is to the chairman of the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Commission. Can the chairman indicate to what extent ADAC is consulting with other jurisdictions and agencies in developing educational materials on the urgent issue of substance abuse.
We're number one in the world.
What about abusing the regular parliament?
Mr. Speaker, I should indicate that ADAC is consulting on a regular basis, both nationally and internationally, with regards to all aspects of substance abuse. And Mr. Speaker, ADAC has been welcomed and recognized as a world leader in the development of educational, prevention, and treatment materials in such a way that they have been awarded an exceptional number of awards throughout the years. In fact, Mr. Speaker, just recently, the Marquis Awards, which is an international award presented to various addictions subscriptions that are developed and materials that are developed in North America, out of approximately 100 submissions and 38 awards, ADAC received 15 of these awards, 4 of them first place, 7 of them second place, which is a commendable circumstance considering that ADAC, with the professional people that are working there, we are able to develop, with the support of this government, exceptional materials for our citizens in Alberta.
A supplementary, Mr. Speaker. That's most gratifying what you've said, but are these materials, are they used internationally in the field of drug abuse?
Stop wasting time here.
Mr. Speaker, each jurisdiction develops materials for their own themes. ADAC develops materials for themes and the complete package of these themes, and through the assessment and evaluation of the various themes that are developed for their educational and preventive values, it is determined they are very effective in Alberta. Mr. Speaker, ADAC is committed, with the continuing support of Premier Getty and the government, to provide excellence and professionalism in their endeavor to assist all Alberta families.
Edmonton, Strathcona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Health and concerns the funding of health units. I'm sure she's aware that over the last 5 years there's been a real decrease, that's to say a decrease in real terms of money, of some 8.8% in the funding of health units across the province. That includes, of course, this city, and the latest health unit itself to fall victim is the Southside Health Centre in my own constituency, and that has had to reduce its services some 50%. Mr. Speaker, those services comprise prenatal classes, child immunization, a well baby clinic, and parenting courses. I ask the Minister, Mr. Speaker, to explain how such preventive medicine economy is not a false economy.
Well, Mr. Speaker, in fact, the funding for health units has increased this year by 3%. And if I look at the funding for the Edmonton Board of Health, between last year and this, there has been a substantial increase in the funding of that health unit.
Right.
Nonetheless, the health unit has had to review its programs and services, and my understanding is that the closure of the particular unit that the honourable member refers to will not result in a reduction in services by the health unit in total. It was for that reason that they were looking on the service side and made this decision with respect to the capital facility in order to be able to continue to deliver health services. I don't think in any way there has been a reduction with respect to support for preventive health measures through our health units. In fact, as we look at the increase in funding which has gone into health in 1991, an increase of over some $100 million, basically to simply keep services at a similar level, I think we need to applaud the work being done by the Edmonton Board of Health to ensure that they're delivering the programs and the services to the residents of their area and the city of Edmonton that they feel are appropriate.
Mr. Speaker, I'm of course talking about the excess of the rate of inflation over the increases provided. And in the case of health units, Mr. Speaker, there's an additional thing this year considerably above the rate of inflation, and that is the expected increase in the cost of nursing services or nurses themselves. And so will the Minister please commit herself to having a special look at the impact of the reduction in real terms on health units on the one hand and the special increase in the cost of these health units on the other?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, as I've indicated on several occasions with respect to the extraordinary settlement that appears to be coming with respect to nurses, certainly we've seen it on the acute and the nursing home side and anticipate it on the health unit side. Certainly, as I've indicated, I would review that nursing contract with a view to its extraordinary nature, and I would be responding back to the health sector in that review. That's not just for the acute side, but certainly the health units would be continued in that. And frankly, continuing to look at appropriate levels of funding on the community side is something that I believe will be a high priority in health throughout the 90s. Certainly if we look at the results of the several premiers' reports that have come with respect to health, we see those reports saying that in fact the resources within the health system are adequate. The question is, are we spending them where we should be spending them? That's something that the member of Edmonton Centre and I and many others have been discussing throughout the budgetary process. But as a priority, clearly the community health side is one that I see as we move ahead as new dollars come available in health.
Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question is to Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife. Speaker, about 30 minutes northeast of Edmonton lies Lily Lake and the famous Alberta Game Farm and Zoo, through which the Sturgeon Municipal Council, by a narrow margin, wishes to build a road despite strong environmental objectors. Now, Mr. Speaker, the members on the Sturgeon Council in favor of building the road, those in favor of building the road through this beautiful lake, apparently had a secret meeting with the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife, or chaired by the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife around June the 6th, of which also present was the Minister of Tourism and others. Now my question, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister is, can the Minister explain why only those councillors in favor of putting a road through the middle of the lake were not there, but maybe more importantly, why wasn't the Minister of Environment at this meeting chaired by you?
Mr. Speaker, I recall the meeting well. It was a request of their council if they wanted to come in and talk to the Minister of Forestry and the Minister of Tourism. And there was no intention to exclude anyone. And they brought forward their concerns that they have as a council, as many councils do across this province. And we met and had a good discussion with them.
Surely, Mr. Speaker, it's not an accident that once again this minister has left the Minister of Environment out of a very important decision. Maybe I could take it to the Premier then. Is this, why does the Premier expect any credibility to be given to the new legislation and surveys across this province when he can't even get his own cabinet to include the Minister of Environment on important decisions such as this?
I went to the mayor and I'm in the room.
Mr. Speaker, we've already got the Minister of Transportation Utilities upset. He wanted to be there too. Mr. Speaker, obviously the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife explained the reason for the meeting. I thought he handled the question well and gave a good answer.
Minister of the Environment.
Well, just to supplement very briefly, I met with the county all by myself. I'm sorry, Premier, you weren't invited, but it was... And I got their side of the story, and I met with opponents all by myself to the Lily Lake Road. And very basically, Mr. Speaker, we have done an environmental impact assessment on the project. Some deficiencies have been identified. The county has been asked to address those deficiencies, and once the department gets the response, we will decide what course of action to take.
Red Deer North, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Agriculture. The free trade agreement is proving to be beneficial to Alberta and to the agricultural sector, just as we had anticipated. But as with any relationship, there's always disputes that arise that need to be worked through. One of those disputes is upon us with Fletcher's and Red Deer having freight liners full of their product turned back at the border. We've brought this to the attention of the Minister of Agriculture, a number of us in different sectors. I'd like to ask the Minister, has he done anything? Has he called Ottawa? Has he called Washington? What's being done to mitigate this difficulty?
Mr. Speaker, the problem as identified is not unique to Fletcher's. There have been some problems with meat inspection at the American border. The matter has been brought to the attention of the Honorable Don Mazankowski, Minister of Agriculture for Canada. I understand the problem is being addressed.
Well, Mr. Speaker, supplementary, this is a very expensive problem when you have let alone one freight loader returned. I've seen the manifest over the last several months, and there's been a number. Can the minister give us any kind of comfort that this is being addressed with any kind of velocity so we can give a time limit to the people in Fletcher's to let them know in terms of a time frame how soon this thing is going to be resolved?
It's my understanding, Mr. Speaker, that discussions have been held between the Minister of Agriculture for Canada and the Minister of Agriculture for the United States, that there has been a commitment from their end to implement the agreement with respect to meat inspection, which is basically that they would accept the other partners, if you wish, meat inspection report.
Member for Edmonton Beverly.
Speaker, my questions this afternoon are to the Minister of Public Works, Supplies and Services. Mr. Speaker, in this government's attempt to balance the budget no matter what costs, the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services has cut programs of grant in lieu of taxes to some 9.8%. This is of special concern, Mr. Speaker, to small towns whose tax base is already small. For them, a 6% reduction in their grant income represents a significant and unfair cut. It would mean that they will have to cut, they have no choice but to cut into vital programs or to increase taxes on rural Albertans. My question to the Minister is, will the Minister admit that this move is simply an attempt to make the municipal councils the bad guys in this government's game of budgeting, the same that Michael Wilson has passed the buck onto the provinces?
Mr. Speaker, it appears that the honourable member had missed a previous occasion when this matter was raised in the Legislative Assembly, and in the event that he had, I would refer him to Hansard of several weeks ago when this matter was raised. In fact, the member from Whitemud raised the question, and there are answers within Hansard with respect to that matter. But, Mr. Speaker, a grant in lieu of tax is a grant that does not apply equally to all of the 325 to 340 municipalities throughout the province of Alberta. It is not a grant that goes on a per capita basis. It is not a grant that every community in this province would get. It's a grant that only those municipalities that have fortunate enough in previous decades to have had provincial buildings or provincial infrastructure located within the community that would get the grant. It's not a tax, Mr. Speaker. It's not a property tax. It is a discretionary grant that in good times when the province had surpluses of dollars, the province created a program. As an example, some nearly 42% of this $37 million a year grant, Mr. Speaker, comes to the municipality of Edmonton and goes to the municipality of Edmonton. The people of Alberta provide to the city of Edmonton nearly $2,300,000 per year for the privilege of having this Legislative Assembly building located in the city of Edmonton. In other words, the taxpayers of Alberta made a decision a long time ago that this building would be located in Edmonton, and now the city of Edmonton expects $2,300,000 a year for this particular infrastructure to be here. There's a vacant building less than a block away from this particular building, Mr. Speaker, called the Federal Building. And a number of years ago, the government of Alberta agreed to a response from the city of Edmonton to do something about development in the downtown city core. The province of Alberta agreed to buy, upon the recommendation of the city of Edmonton, the old Federal Building. Now the city of Edmonton wants a grant of $450,000 a year from the taxpayers of Alberta for this vacant building, Mr. Speaker. Now, Mr. Speaker, we recognize that there's been a slight reduction in this annual grant, but we've also done two other things to allow municipalities to, in fact, deal with this matter. First of all, the grant flows through in a fiscal year. The fiscal year in the province of Alberta is April 1 to the following March. I have agreed to allow this grant to go early in the fiscal year, Mr. Speaker, so that the local municipal officers can take the grant that we wouldn't necessarily have to provide till March of next year to bank it. In other words, put it in a bank account and earn interest of 12 and 13 and 14%, which would more than overcome the minor adjustment reduction in this special grant that only applies to some municipalities in our province, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, other than maybe getting the kind of money they need, I think it's the smaller towns that are concerned about rather than the large municipalities. And Mr. Speaker, the cut is ironic given that the minister's own office budget was increased by some 39% this year. Now, Mr. Speaker, that kind of double standard proves that a tax fairness is a conception which has no meaning for this conservative double-talking government. Will the minister now admit that the direct result of this grant cut will be to increase the tax burden on individual ratepayers across rural Alberta? Rural Alberta.
Absolutely not, Mr. Speaker. That simply isn't the case, and I appreciate that the political attempt made by the honourable member to say, well, the minister's office increased a bit. And of course it did, Mr. Speaker, because a year ago, this particular minister in his office, when that budget was being located, had only one department, Department of Public Works, Supply and Services. And of course, after the election of 1989, there were additional responsibilities directed towards the Minister of Public Works, Supply and Services, which included responsibilities for the Public Affairs Bureau, Alberta Public Safety Services, the Wild Rose Foundation, lotteries, major exhibitions, and fairs. And there are no dollars allocated to the minister in any of those department budgets, Mr. Speaker. So it's a cheap shot from my honourable friend to make that particular statement. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, let it not go unknown that in the province of Alberta, this government has created such innovative additional availabilities of funds for all of our municipalities, such as the Alberta Partnership Transfer Program that the Minister of Municipal Affairs administers. Mr. Speaker, the AMPLE program, the Alberta Municipal Program for Local Employment, which is a multi-million-dollar program, which has been in effect for a number of years, Mr. Speaker. My colleague, the Minister of Transportation and Utilities, provides incredible amounts of dollars to all municipalities in the province of Alberta.
Order, honourable member. Thank you. Thank you. Edmonton Centre, followed by Edmonton Gold Bar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Currently in the city of San Francisco, experts from around the world are meeting to mobilize their best efforts to meet the continuing health crisis of AIDS. Here in Alberta, Mr. Speaker, 140 Albertans have died of AIDS. And in calling the AIDS Network office this morning, I've learned the number of Albertans who are HIV infected has continued to rise according to all projections. However, Mr. Speaker, this government and this minister have continued to delay any new initiatives with respect to medical research into this area, have delayed dealing with any new drug treatments and the cost of new drugs such as aerosolized pentamidine, and they've delayed addressing the hospice, the care accommodation side of people who are living with AIDS. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, the Provincial AIDS Advisory Council has not met for over a year. Now, given the government falling far behind the rest of the world in dealing with this vital health issue, will the Minister of Health at least call together the Provincial AIDS Advisory Council and get together to announce a new strategy that will meet the needs of people living with AIDS and other Albertans for the next 3 years?
Hear, hear. Well, Mr. Speaker, I will take strong issue with the allegation that Alberta is falling far behind with respect to the treatment and the prevention of AIDS in our province. I think we can put the work that's going on in Alberta up against most other provinces. certainly up against the work being done with respect to a national strategy and our participation in the development of that strategy, and our work generally with respect to the prevention side as well as the treatment side. The question the honourable member raises with respect to hospice is one that he and I have discussed at some time, and we are currently looking at the whole issue of palliative care in its broadest context, but certainly it is my view, and I'm hoping that we will be able to reflect that back into the policy, that the existing health system must deal with issues of palliative care, including the issue of AIDS, and I'm very pleased to see the steps that have been taken by some of the long-term care institutions in our province with respect to bringing people in to our long-term care system with respect to AIDS. But I'm proud of the work being done by our province. Certainly I'm an advocate for ensuring that the advisory council is an effective advisory council and policy development council in our province, and I will undertake for the honourable member to get a meeting of the council in the nearest possible time frame.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate that, but the fact remains that the council has not met, that many community groups keep wondering what their budget's going to be each year, that there's been no provincial coordinated strategy to deal with AIDS in this province since the previous Minister of Community Health had one 3 years ago. That's now elapsed. And I'm asking this new minister, when will she sit down with care providers, with the Provincial AIDS Council, with people living with AIDS, and announce in this House this summer a new 3-year plan for dealing with AIDS in this province? It's so vitally necessary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm certainly one who's an advocate for ensuring that we're using our health resources in an appropriate way, and clearly AIDS is one of the health challenges which is before us, and ensuring that our strategy plan is appropriate is one of the high priorities within the health portfolio. As well, I'm going to take the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to advise that Alberta is not participating in the boycott of the International AIDS Conference in San Francisco. In fact, people from the Department of Health, as well as people from other community support groups, including the Board of Health, are participating in that AIDS conference to ensure that in the best interests of the health of Albertans that we are very much contemporary in the information base that we have and the approaches that we're taking, and I will continue on that thrust for our province.
Edmonton Goldbar.
Mr. Speaker, one of the very dangerous and incipient kinds of pollution is the disposal of pathological and biomedical wastes. And a valid concern has been expressed for months now throughout Alberta. We urgently need a provincial analysis and audit and plans for management and control. We understand there's an interdepartmental committee been working on this that was supposed to have reported in January. And we know these wastes are being dumped in landfill sites. Mr. Speaker, this is creating a serious, if not dangerous, situation. It's not unique to urban areas. It's happening every place in the province. I'd like to ask the Minister of Health, when and where will we get a comprehensive plan to deal with this very serious problem?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think I welcome the question because the issue of biomedical waste and its disposal in our province, appropriate disposal in our province, is one that the Ministers of Environment, Public Works Supply and Services and the Minister of Health have been working on for some time. Just to give members of the House a sense of the magnitude of the problem, within our health care system, we create about 9 tons of specialty waste each day with respect to the hospital sector. That is about 17% of the total waste in health. So 17% is a specialty waste. The remainder is like household waste that can be disposed of in a very regular way. It's our view as ministers that there should be a very comprehensive response to disposal of biomedical waste, including that which is generated through veterinary and public health and medical offices. we aren't ready with that comprehensive plan. Certainly we've been working with agencies like the Alberta Hospital Association with respect to training employees, with respect to segregating waste. It's clearly a problem that isn't going to go away, and I appreciate the Honourable Member for Gold Bar being anxious about a response. We are too, and it will be a response that addresses the disposal of waste from the public, private, and hospital sector side.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful to know that there is something happening in it, but in fact, these wastes are in landfill sites and elsewhere, and it's the elsewhere perhaps that's the greater worry. Mr. Speaker, will the minister then please tell us what interim controls are in place throughout the province in the meantime until we get a plan, and how is the situation being monitored?
Well, Mr. Speaker, this isn't something that has occurred in the last couple of months. It's something that we are, obviously, our consciousness of the disposal of the waste and the appropriate disposal is something that we are all concerned about and looking for solutions on. We are working with hospitals and other groups across the province to try and get a sense of how we might respond to the regional waste disposal capability within our health system, how we might use the facilities of the Swan Hills plant in an appropriate way, and how we might complement private initiatives with respect to waste disposal. I cannot tell the Honourable Member that I know exactly the way that all of the facilities are disposing of the waste at this point, but we have a pretty good idea of it, and our comprehensive plan for the appropriate disposal in the future, along with monitoring by the Department of the Environment, will be something that we will push for. In the City of Edmonton, the Honourable Member may well know that a couple of the incinerators have been closed down because they weren't capable of meeting environmental control standards. And in the meantime, there are contingency plans for those incinerators that are not being used to have that shipped to others that can be used. And that's how we were proceeding at this point. But certainly we are working very hard to come forward with a very comprehensive plan on the issue.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, previously in the province, the small contractors were required to obtain a $5,000 surety bond, and this was an expense to them. But recently, we've increased this to a $25,000 surety bond for the small contractors throughout the province. And could the Minister of Corporate and Consumer Affairs please advise the Assembly if he's aware that this has created a very great hardship for a lot of small contractors because they cannot get a $25,000 surety bond.
Mr. Speaker, with respect to the issue of surety bonds for a variety of those organizations or professions that occupational groups that we in fact license under our department, the amount has been increased for the first time since 1980 because of the fact that settlements in that area have surpassed the bond limits. The Honourable Member indicated 5,000 to 25,000. In a few cases that is true. Others have not been so dramatic. We have made sure that the businesses involved can phase into this particular program starting June 1st of this year, going to June 1st of next year, depending on when their current bond is up, so that they indeed aren't faced with that cost in terms of the time period that they had dealt with it. I believe the increase in most circumstances are in fact not significant. They are increases that would range in the dollars or perhaps the $100 ranges rather than the thousands or more than that. I would be
willing to take a look at any specific circumstance that the member might have where he says it's causing terrible hardship. However, we must have a bond system which does protect to the consumer, which allows for individuals to claim an appropriate amount, and when we say there is protection by that, we have to make sure we mean it.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker. If we are going to stand by this $25,000 requirement, I don't think the Honorable Minister or anybody in this government wants to put these people out of business. Could the Minister give a commitment that he will try to find either a way for them to get the surety bonds, the ones that's having the difficulties, or else considering for the smaller contractors a lesser amount?
Mr. Speaker, I would be pleased to deal with the honourable member on any specific circumstance where he feels that there's the potential for putting somebody out of business. As I say, from what I know, increases in the cost to individual companies should be from $25 to perhaps at a maximum a couple of $100 in a year. In terms of that increase, I don't know of contractors that would put out of business. Whatever we do in reviewing it, we must ensure that the bond amount is in keeping with the settlements that are there, so that any claims that are made, people do indeed have that safeguard. That is what the process is for, and we must ensure that that's the case. Having said that, I'd be pleased to talk with the honourable member about any particular circumstance that he's run across and any options which may meet the need outlined that he might be able to suggest.
Understanding Order 40, Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Standing Order 40, as I've mentioned already, really has three components. Be it resolved this Assembly, at least those people that still believe in democracy, Mr. Speaker, for its 11th hour introduction of the bill to sell off Alberta government telephones, major political initiative, not even mentioned. In fact, the cases people were praising Alberta government telephones and said it would be here, Mr. Speaker. No public hearings, Mr. Speaker, no public hearings. And now finally, for the last source we might have of public hearings, to debate it here in the legislature for its blatant contempt of parliamentary democracy by giving notice of closure on the enabling bill. Mr. Speaker, I point out to you the urgency of this is simply that, as you're well aware, a motion for closure is not debatable. Therefore, this is the only time we can debate the process which has led to this particular crisis, Mr. Speaker. This government said itself, and the minister announced it from the Premier, that this was a valued company doing good work in the province. We believe that it has major implications for this province, Mr. Speaker, and that if failing not to debate it in election, failing to have public hearings, then surely we have to take adequate time here for what we're paid to do, Mr. Speaker, to debate this bill. For the government to say that they've had adequate time, Mr. Speaker, we've checked on it. There's been 18 New Democrats have talked in this bill, 5 Tories, but 4 of them just to adjourn debate, Mr. Speaker, and 2 Liberals, Mr. Speaker. I guess they're not sure where they stand on it, Mr. Speaker. And to say that something as important, as fundamental as your own telephone system and your move into telecommunications has been adequately debated in this legislature is nonsense. Now, Mr. Speaker, I know that the government, with the tyranny of the majority, can do this. It used to be the closure debate in Canadian parliamentary history was something that people went on very lightly, Mr. Speaker. Governments were overturned about it. But now every time that the government wants to get away early, they bring it in, Mr. Speaker. I mean, it's a complete contempt for the parliamentary process, that's right, Mr. Speaker. And I say to you that people in Alberta now, we're getting calls from people that are realizing that, hey, something's going on, we're just not sure. We hear the government saying privatization is good, and you're saying it's bad. We want to know more about it, Mr. Speaker. Well, we're not even going to be able to debate it in the House now. It will be done, over, right away, Mr. Speaker. Without debate, without public hearings, and people are going to be angry about this after. They're going to say, where were you people? What were you doing here? We wanted a full debate in something as major as this, Mr. Speaker. And I would say to this government that has special significance for rural Albertans, Mr. Speaker. And I say this is just unnecessary. For those people who think, well, this has gone on long enough, 9 days, I say, frankly, big deal. This is what we are paid to do, Mr. Speaker, to take major legislation and debate it. Most people are saying, well, we're tired and we want to go home. I say, too bad. Too bad, Mr. Speaker. I can't imagine a more major bill that we should be spending our time with. I wish they hadn't brought it in, and I frankly find that the whole process was offensive. They knew Meech Lake was coming, but slide it in just before then, when people's attentions are elsewhere. Then let's go at it at the end of the session, and if necessary, bring in closure before people knew what hit them. That's the strategy of this government, Mr. Speaker, and it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable in a democratic society, Mr. Speaker, and I would hope that regardless of your political persuasion, when you bring in a major bill like this, and I think the Deputy Premier knows better than this, that you would take the time to debate it. You should have held public hearings, at least talked about an election, but at least take the time here to debate it. And I find it absolutely irresponsible that 2 Liberals and 5 Tories, 4 of them just to adjourn debate, that's all they got to say about a major bill, Mr. Speaker, and to say that that's enough, we have to bring closure debate in, I think is shameful, Mr. Speaker. And I would hope even at this late date, then they would give us at least unanimous consent to debate this bill, Mr. Speaker.
Under Standing Order 40, the request for unanimous consent. Those willing to give unanimous consent, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. No. Matter fails. No division. Division.
You can't have division on this. You can't have division on this. There's no division. It wasn't a motion. It was not a motion. It was